I think that, for example, it's interesting because, of course, your book, Excellent Advice for Living, is, I think, tailored for my generation, 20-somethings, 25-year-olds, maybe beginning late 20s or early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard you in your answer, when you said, we're not going to be here for 500 years, in 500 years, right, we're not going to be remembered, for me, it actually made my palms a bit sweaty. Like, a lot of the things that I weigh in my life at these early stages of my career, you could say, is
Mm-hmm.
legacy and success. And probably a lot of our listeners will also relate. And so when you were 25 years old, Kevin, did you have also kind of these, uncertainties about who you were going to become or who you were, or these themes of legacy, and how have those evolved around your life?
Yeah, no, I did not. When I was 25, had very little money and I was traveling in Asia, and which I think in some ways helped lengthen my perspective on the world, and my prospects were very narrow in a certain sense. I didn't have a career. I didn't have a college degree. My expectations were fairly low. I was sort of aiming to never have any money, but having lots of time to do interesting things, because I realized by then that you didn't really need money to do interesting things. It was a matter of willpower and having a choice. And that was sort of what I was resigning myself to, is sort of a quiet life, maybe you could say, of following my own path with very little prospects of great achievement. And so I think it was close. And then traveling in these big countries like India with billions of people, you kind of, I got the impression that the world operates, the world at large operates at kind of a very slow, long speed. There's deep roots in history, and it'll probably continue. And then our lives are rather very, very small compared to, the cosmos. And so I thought there was wisdom in people who preached starting with your immediate surroundings as a place to have effect on the world. The bit of advice is like, to clean your city, you begin by sweeping your own doorstep. And that idea of beginning where you are and going outward as a means to make change was something that I understood, or I came to understand in my 20s.
Wow. Yeah, and it's when you were 25 years old, Kevin, it's really amazing, because I think that the contrast is that, for example, our the way we are growing with the rapid technology, and also the instant you could put it this way, the instant way of comparing ourselves with our peers, through LinkedIn, through Instagram, who's doing better, who's ranking better, all of those things. And all of a sudden one begins to lose sight of following what you just said, following your own path, not even knowing how to follow one's own path,
Right.
because all of this external noise.
Right.
Everyone's doing this, so I should probably focus on that. And so how would you tackle this challenge that we're facing now, younger generations that, maybe we're losing sight of what truly matters in life, which is, maximizing your time, following your own path, and trying to harvest those themes, those values in your life?
Yeah, I certainly think that, being connected to everybody else in the world all the time, 24 hours a day, makes it more difficult to kind of think differently, which is what you want to be doing. I would say a couple of things. One is if you're young particularly, try to work in an area where they don't have words for what it is that you're doing, where there's no language. And that, I think, is one way that you can have more of a chance to be arriving at something that you are uniquely suited to do by going beyond where there's names and language and words for what it is that's happening, what it is that you're doing. So, and I think, so being a little confused and perplexed about things is actually, to me, a good sign. If you're on a path, if you're pursuing something that's well known, you want to be a movie star, you want to be a basketball star, you want to be the world's best, richest person. Those are all things that are highly competitive. They're already occupied by somebody else, and you're very unlikely to reach it. But if you are on a path to try and discover who you are and what you can do uniquely and different, there's no competition. And so if you're doing it right, and it's a lifelong journey, it doesn't happen all at once. You're kind of moving in that direction slowly. And I think a good sign that you're moving in the direction is that there's no words for what it is. There is the other thing that's also important is if you find yourself doing things that you find easy that other people find hard, that's a good sign. And then the third sign is if you're doing kinds of things that people find boring or torturous and yet you love to do, that's another good sign that you're going in the right direction. So, I know artists who love spending hours and hours doing these little lines. And it's like, I can't do that. Or writers who want to write 1,000 words every day because they love to do that. That's also something that I find difficult. And so, it's those kinds of things where you're paying attention to your own inclinations, your own curiosity, and you're kind of pursuing them despite what other people may say about it, despite whether it's currently seeming economical. And so there requires a little bit of trusting yourself, a little bit of bravery to go in that direction. And I'll say the last thing about that is lots of decisions in our lives present themselves as one way, saying like you can't, like you go through this door, you can't come back. That's very rarely true. It's very rare that you can't turn around and if something's not working, go backwards. There are occasionally some, but they're very, very rare. But nonetheless, I also, one of the ways you do this is that you prototype, you test, you do small steps, you try something as a hobby, as a side hustle first, just to see. You shadow somebody. You want to be a welder? Shadow them for one day just to see. You want to be a lawyer? Volunteer to be there for a week to see if you really want to do what they're doing. And so there are things like that you can move forward in kind of small steps and testing things.
Well, there's a ton there to unpack. And I think that, to summarize it a bit is, I know that one of your best beats, or rather your favorite beats from the Excellent Advice for Living, your book, is don't be the best, be the one. And I think it connects. Be the only. I apologize.
Right.
We should stop right here, Kevin. We should stop here. It connects with two things that you also write on, is that you shouldn't measure your life with somebody else's ruler, that you also discussed right now is how to hone in how to build your own measure in life. But also it connects with another idea that is it's kind of tangential, but I think I want to connect with it, is that you should manage yourself. You say that you should manage yourself with your mind and you should manage other people with your heart. And so here, when I was reading that, and I was like, after reading it, I went for a walk, and then I started thinking, often, and I correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you're very tuned in with your intuition. I feel that the advice for younger people is also to hone into that intuition, into that what the heart says. And so how can we find that perfect balance between, managing ourselves not only rationally, but also tuning into that heart, our heart?
I don't think there is a perfect balance. I think there is, I think you may be swinging from one to another, but that's what we do when we walk. We're leaning forward or almost falling, then we recover, and then we take the next. And so there is this sort of persistent disequilibrium. I don't think you're ever in equilibrium. And in fact, in life, in ecology, equilibrium is death. You're in persistent disequilibrium. So I think, so balance is not necessarily what we're looking for. We're looking for kind of persistence, unbalance. That's just the right kind of unbalancing. And so you do need to pay attention to emotional things as well, logical things. And so particularly of a certain kind of a person, and maybe the people I am in, there's an emphasis on intellect, IQ, logic, but so much of things is accomplished not by intellect. You need many other qualities. You have to add so many more things besides intelligence to get things done. And oftentimes the person with the most achievements is not necessarily the smartest person. And so so you want to attend to these other things.